Rob Grimes with the IFBTA, and I'm really pleased, again, to be with Hughes, which is a founding global industry partner of the IFBTA. And with me today is Tim Tang, who's a business technologist, and Carl Udler, the Senior Director of Marketing. So welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, the thought that came to mind as Tim was speaking, and as you just summed that up for me, is how do you explain this in plain English, or in very simplified ways to an operator who may not believe it's their business to know technology? And by the way, some of the big guys are in that same boat. They were in the technology business, they got out of it. I've seen that too, right? And the nearest thing that I can figure to this that everybody would understand is streaming services. I purchase streaming services, right? And I have to make the decision, do I buy them as bundled through my main provider, or do I get them individually? And by the way, sometimes I buy them individually because I have multiple locations, which means separate arrangements, right? Because I can't get them all from one person globally everywhere, right? And use them everywhere. But boy, does that get complicated when people change their terms, when one service is not working or another, and you have to have the connectivity in there. I wish, and you'll tell me, of course, that Hughes does this on the residential side or something, but I wish that nationwide, and we'll essentially get there, that I would have that consistency. But I think anybody can understand that when you're buying streaming services, that you're adding these applications, including your music stuff and your internet and everything, into your TV. And I think it's an easy way for somebody to understand where we're headed.
Exactly. And what you just said is key. Having different locations across the U.S. and wanting the variety of services that are offered that are different for each location. So if you're a company, a brand or a franchisor or franchisee that has 20 locations, 200 locations across the U.S., if you DIY'd it, then you could, for those 200 locations, have 50 to 100 different broadband providers.
Absolutely. And that's a real problem.
It's a real problem with different speeds, different SLAs, different CIRs, and different bills. The administration of paying 50 to 100 different bills every single month can be daunting. Having it all consolidated to one provider that provides the connectivity.
And I don't think that people understand when you say managed service provider. And by the way, maybe there is no single definition of a managed service provider, because I'm sure that everybody uses a different definition for it. But in the Hughes definition of it, you're going to take responsibility, you're going to bring it all together, and you're going to work, by the way, individually with the customer. And can we just define one thing here? Because as we know, there are different segments in the industry. And you have independents, you have the small to medium business. We could debate, of course, how many units makes up each. Okay, great. The multi-unit operators, and then you've got, these enterprise, with the small enterprise, mid-tier, large enterprise. Are you actually servicing in one way or another all of those different groups, franchisee or not,
We certainly are. And we do that in a couple of ways. We do it by working with the brand and making everything the same across all locations, with Hughes having one customer of the brand. We do it in a franchise model where the brand is our customer and the brand goes out and has Hughes install our services.
But can a brand be a small independent?
Certainly.
Can they be 10 units or something like that? So I just want to make sure we understand that the scope, because a lot of people might think if they don't see Hughes at every regional show or something, that you're not providing that service, but you are.
A smaller 10 location, 20 location brand can come to us and say, I want your digital menu board offering. And we'll work with them.
And that's probably where they start having problems at 10 units, 20 units up. They don't realize it yet, but they just went from needing to manage more centrally, right?
With the administration of it being the catalyst to moving towards a managed services provider.
And geography-wise, a lot of people are moving globally, quickly. Even if they only have 3 units, they get asked to go do something in Dubai, and all of a sudden you got a unit in Dubai, but you only have 5 units, So how do you work? Do you provide global solutions?
We do. We're a multinational corporation, MNC, with operations throughout the world. And whether you have locations not just in the U.S., but in Brazil, over in Europe, somewhere in the Middle East, or even the Far East, we have a very streamlined way to work with those types of locations to fold
Because you have
them
the
in.
partnerships.
That's
really.
exactly.
I mean, you're bringing the partnerships in the best. Why is one country's location different than one state's or someplace?
Not just partnerships, we have operating centers in these regions.
You have your
So
own.
we have
Yes.
our own NOx and capability in Europe, in India, in.
No, I think that that's very important to bring it together and provide that support as well
Indeed.
that you were talking about before. And then just one more time on the franchise community, because that is just one of those ones that really not just for the people who are existing franchises, but the ones who are thinking about doing it and they're thinking it's a daunting task and they can't expand that way. Could you just address maybe a little bit more the complexity or the challenges that they may face in it, but also how you're actually making it easier for them to make that decision?
Sure. All franchisees, for the most part, are small to medium-sized businesses. They've chosen to do business as the brand, as a DBA of XYZ brand. And in doing that, they follow the brand's prescribed processes, and they do that, and if they follow it, they'll get the results that they expected. Now,
Right.
the small business, the franchisee, they are not experts in marketing. They're not experts in technology. They're not experts in supply chain. They rely on the
But
brand.
that's why they become a franchisee and
That's
they pay a
exactly
fee
right.
for it. Otherwise, they'd be an independent operator.
That's exactly right. So when they're relying on the brand to help them support and run their business, technology is a key part of it. In fact, in the FDD, which is the franchise disclosure document, I mentioned that earlier, that's the governing document between the franchisor and the franchisee. There are marketing fees in there that cover marketing for nationwide or local areas. There's also a technology fee. And that technology fee includes things that the franchisee wouldn't likely be able to do on their own, like have consistent POS, have consistent secure managed broadband, have consistent cybersecurity, digital signage, menu boards, and everything else that goes into that world. So we work, again, closely with the franchisor and the franchisee to make sure their needs are met.
Well,
Well,
I'd
I
also add to that with a lot of the franchisors, it's a meaningful challenge to actually introduce new technology and new solutions into their systems. And so another very key role that we play is not only in providing the solutions and the technologies, but actually communicating them to the franchisee community and being able to kind of be that third voice, if you will, or that outside voice that gives them a neutral voice of saying, here are the solutions, here are the motivations behind the solutions and the potential
Well, you
impacts
make
and
it
how you
easy
think
for
about
them.
them.
Let me share a story. Many years ago, when I first got into doing this type of work with Hughes, I was at a national chicken franchise show. And I'm talking to all the franchisees that are coming about. We had some new offerings. The CIO brings over a large franchisee. He must have had 100 locations. And the CIO said, Carl, please tell this franchisee about our new offering. And I was excited, and I picked up the brochure, and I said, this is what we're offering. It has this great router, and the router's configured like this. And the franchisee said, hold on, time out. I have no idea what you're talking about. I fry chickens, which gave me a very crisp insight into how franchisees think. They don't care necessarily about the technology. They just want it to work to help them sell, in this case, more chicken.
So with that, I just need to clarify that a little bit. How does Hughes ensure that the people that are working with the franchisees and the brands at the actual operational level actually understand the business?
So when we start working with a franchisor or franchisee environment, we internally meet to understand their needs, right? We know that from the design standpoint, but once everything's been selected and signed off on, we talk with our salespeople, our inside sales group, about how the service will help the franchisee, because again, everything has the ROI. We work with our customer service group to make sure that when they're talking with the franchisees, that they understand the importance behind it. And that flows throughout all the different components and support groups of Hughes. For example, in retail world, we know that most providers don't touch their systems during Christmas season, right? Whether it's October into November, everything stops until Christmas season is over. But each vertical has their own Christmas season, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the pizza world, if you're providing pizza,
The Super
your
Bowl.
Christmas is Super Bowl,
Right.
right? If you're in the fish business, your Christmas is lent. So understanding the nuances of each of our customers is something that we do.
Carl, you did a description of what a managed service provider is. And I think it's pretty clear to us that probably everybody has a different definition of it. But what takes me, sort of, as I think about this, is what do I think about Hughes first, right? And I see these commercials all the. As a matter of fact, last week I saw this commercial. I don't know exactly where I was, but they were showing rural America and somebody out there and how Hughes is doing that connectivity out there. And I can't remember because I travel so much exactly where I was. But I don't know if it was Texas. I have no clue where it was. But I saw it in the last week. And I think first and foremost, a lot of people are going to think of Hughes as not a managed service provider, but probably as a satellite provider who's giving me my home connectivity. And I just want to maybe address that you are a satellite provider doing that kind of connectivity, but I think through your definition, you're much more.
Sure. So Hughes has a very long and proud legacy in satellite. We've been providing satellite services for 52 years, right? It's a long time. And some of our earliest networks were connecting retail store to headquarters before the internet was even prevalent or perhaps even existed. What we are now able to do based on that network legacy that we have is we're able to provide networks using the cheap, readily available, fast, and reliable wireline technology that exists today, whether it's DSL, cable, or fiber. We use that for the last mile connectivity to the network, which we still build a world-class network, and we're able to use our expertise of doing it in the previous environment over satellite in a much...
Did I miss cellular in there?
Cellular's in there as well.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I'm counting down the terminology there. But I think what you're telling us is that satellite's still there because there are still
Absolutely.
locations that need to have satellite. And as a leader in that, you're going to be able to hit every location, perhaps unlike, it's a differentiating factor. But you actually are agnostic it's about the connectivity.
It's about the connectivity. It's about the reach. You said accurately, we can reach just about everywhere in the U.S., even if you're in the middle
Reach
of
anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world, especially if you're in a desert, not necessarily the desert, but a desert of connectivity, where the wireline providers aren't necessarily going to spend the X dollars to run out wire. We can connect that store exactly the same as we can your downtown location that has fiber into it. So everything will look the same, have the same applications running. And depending on the volume of the store too, Rob, we could have a primary cable connection, a backup 4G, LTE, or 5G connection. And then depending on how much revenue and services are flowing through it, we could have a third connection, a tertiary of satellite, or of another 4G connection. So running from a different provider. So we have the primary, the backup, the parallel backup, same technology, different provider, and then a completely third different type of technology.
What a lot of DIY customers don't understand is that they may have a couple hundred locations, but when they deploy in a nationwide kind of footprint, there's a meaningful fragmentation of their few hundred locations. So the local provider is not going to see 200, 300 restaurants. They're going to see the 5 or 10 restaurants that they're providing services to. From a Hughes perspective, we solve that problem by aggregating across multiple industries. And so when that same provider only sees 5 or 10 locations from one particular restaurant brand, they're also seeing thousands of locations that Hughes may be providing across the C-store industry, the retail industry, the restaurant industry. And so when something goes wrong, we're carrying that weight of influence and that priority in that a local provider's mentality that says, I need to solve this and solve these problems quickly.
So I guess I would summarize this maybe that because we're not going to say satellite provider here, we're going to say, Hughes is the connection provider or the connecting point, of providing service.
We are the managed services provider. So whatever service for network services, we're for the connectivity, the security, and the support, Rob.
It pulls it all together, so I get that. Well, thank you for clarifying that for us because we don't really want to think about it is as good as you do on these TV ads. It's great. I got the message there, but it's really much more than that. And this industry requires much more than that. But what we do know is back at your roots 52 years ago, that you still have that component, which means that they can in fact get, the connectivity they need in a data secure and a consistent manner, no matter wherever those touch points are with their guests.
Correct.
The exciting thing about Hughes is when you go 52 years ago, what we were doing was we were taking a new technology at the time, VSATs, and basically commercializing them for the enterprise marketplace today. That capability, that spirit continues throughout Hughes, and it's moved on to other technologies, not only as leveraging that same engineering talent to basically accommodate all these disparate different kind of broadband solutions, but even like in the 5G world, taking our operational capabilities and engineering new solutions. So like, for example, with the Navy, we have a whole standalone managed 5G network for their...
And that is your expertise. It's your heritage, your ancestry, your expertise, to know how to do that connectivity and manage it in a consistent manner, even if they're using multiple types of connectivity,
That's
which
right.
you will bring together, hence managed service. So, a final question for you, because I did introduce this session today as Hughes being one of the founding global industry partners of the IFBTA, and you've really been with us since the beginning, and you continue to work with us and grow with us, even in new industry segments out there. And just curious, from your point, where do you see that growing together, and your continued support? Why do you continue to support the IFBTA?
I would tell you that, and I very much appreciate the years that we've spent together in terms of working in this industry. The IFBTA has been giving us a tremendous opportunity to actually engage with not only other suppliers, but actually with the operators in the restaurants. The chapter meetings that have been hosted have been very valuable opportunities to build meaningful relationships. It's not just like an annual event or along the lines. It's an opportunity to actually routinely and regularly engage and start to get to know the operators personally and individually. And that is incredibly powerful for our business. It's to be able to have that level of insight inside to what their world is, the things that they're struggling with, the tensions between the franchisees and the franchisors, the challenges with the technology and trying to introduce kind of new solutions. We've had a front row seat through the relationships and through the opportunities. The IFBTA has also been an opportunity for us to kind of pour a lot of our expertise into the industries through white papers, through videos like this, and these kind of opportunities too as well. And so I think it's been a platform to be able to kind of address and engage with the industry that we just continue to see. Very excited about, you started with just the chapter meetings, and now you've grown to a whole platform at the National Retail Federation's big show and the like. And so it's been a exciting opportunity to see kind of as you've grown and you've developed even new relationships and partnerships with state and local agencies and the like. It's given us as a partner in your organization to be able to access even a broader community of restaurant executives, and given us even greater access into the industry.
And it's not just it's not just talking in the industry and talking with prospects. We are an integral part of what helps the community run. We share our insights with customers, with prospects. We share what we see going on in the industry. We're an active participant, not just another vendor.
Well, I think, first of all, you've probably summed it up really well, because as you both were describing that, we equally greatly appreciate your support since the beginning. But I will tell you that one of our key things and one of our key slogans, our marketing pieces out there, is that everyone has an equal seat at the table. And the difference is some people just sit at the table and some people actually participate in the conversation. And Hughes has certainly been one of those people, and Tim, more vocal than many people out there across the board in these industries. But every time I've gone to any meeting, any conference out there, Hughes has been an equal participant, sharing and taking in information, and you can see that that's really what makes the relationship work. So, from the IFBTA standpoint, it's been a pleasure to again, have Hughes, our founding global industry partner, join us today and share their views in a number of different areas, and making sure that we understand not only where they've been and where they are, but also where they're going. And thank you to Tim Tang, the business technologist, I should say Mensa business technologist, and Carl Udler, the Senior Director of Marketing, for joining us today and supporting the IFBTA.
Thank you, Rob.